I'm recording this after a short segment of meditation. And you will probably think, here it is, here's another guy talking about how he meditates for 30-40 minutes each day, how his life is perfect and he is in full allostatic balance. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I don't even know how to pronounce it. But basically you're in equilibrium, inside and out. And I'm here to tell you that that's not my experience. That's not my experience with anxiety, with depression, and with meditation. And the reason why I wanted to share things today, first of all, is to somehow allow yourself to give yourself permission to be terrible at it. I'm terrible at meditation. I have some type of form of needing to move myself like every 10 seconds or so. And when I started meditating, my first meditation session was 1 minute and 30 seconds. And I feel ashamed. And there is nothing more terrible in this life than to try a cure for something, have poor results, and then feel ashamed for it. That shame comes packaged with the idea that you're not good enough, you're doing something wrong, and it doesn't help, especially if you're anxiety or depression prone. And by the way, there are around 10 factors which were scientifically proven that can cause anxiety and depression, and 2 of them are indeed medical in nature, such as imbalances in hormones, the first one. The second one, your genes, which predispose you to a certain type of a certain type of depression, first of all, and also you are more likely to get depressed. It's been shown, for example, in a study of twins that you're 50% more likely to get depressed, but it doesn't mean 50% is not 100%, and it doesn't mean anything. It's just, you have a higher likelihood for that to happen. And the 2 types of depressions are the depression in which you are incredibly inactive, you don't have the energy to move around, the energy to speak, the energy to interact with the world. That's like when you're being in a deep, dark hole and you cannot get away from it, and you just want to lay in your bed for the whole day. And the other type is the type where there is some movement, there is more excitations of I'm probably butcher it, but it's basically all of your senses are being pushed more towards that manic response, and this is when tragedies happen. So it's this type of depression is much not worse in a sense, but you have to have somebody take care a bit of you if you're in that state, because as I was saying, bad things can happen there, because now you have the energy to take actions and to move and to do things that you might end up regretting, or the people around you might end up regretting. So with this dark turn in mind, the other things are, for example, a lack of people around you, like isolation. Isolation makes you more likely to be depressed. Lack of exercise, not moving your body, that makes you more likely to get into a depression. And I want to remind you, those are proven by actual research papers, and there are many other ones that can cause it. I don't want to list all of them, but the idea is you will go through those and you will find out that, hey, you know what, if I want to be less depressed, I should eat in a certain way, or I should exercise in a certain way, or I should meditate, because this is where the starting point was. How am I doing that? I know nothing about exercising, about meditation, about, I don't know, making friends or whatever. What humans typically do, they go ask somebody, or they read, they inform themselves. They try to get the information from some place or the other. And the information is usually said in exclamation mark and in bold letters and in manners that make you feel like this is the end all be all. A book that I've recently read on the subject actually tries to stay away from that. The whole idea of the book is that, see, you cannot say with certainty, oh, there's a cure for stress, for depression, for anxiety, for whatever, whatnot. Something works sometimes and other times it doesn't, and that's normal. And I think this is, I'm sure this is the point that I'm trying to make here. The point that you cannot do something wrong. So if you're trying to exercise, you're only exercising for 10 minutes and you don't know how. You have just watched some YouTube videos. You're trying to watch your form, but after 10 minutes, you're kind of exhausted. And you spiral into a more negative thought pattern, which is incredibly destructive. Like, I'm not good enough. I cannot do this thing. How does that guy do a 1 hour workout when I'm not able to do a 10 minutes workout? I'm a failure. Everybody hates me. Everybody will always hate me, because in that state it's very easy to make generalizations, and so on and so forth. And we're on our minds. And by the way, I think to sum up those states of depression and anxiety is a way of us hating ourselves and a way of us attacking ourselves. I somehow, I don't know why, but I identify them with autoimmune disease. I'm not saying they're the same thing, they're not the same thing, but in the same way that your body attacks itself or some part of itself in an autoimmune disorder, that's what basically depression does to you. Anxiety, not so much. Anxiety, it's a different thing. It's a different discussion, but depression definitely is trying so hard to basically kill the parts of you and kill the parts of your brain that can muster any sort of defense, or they're working properly. So yeah, I'm not trying to give the most medical sound reasoning here. I'm not trying to say that this is in any way a guide or a good discussion on anxiety, on depression. I'm not claiming that. I'm claiming that it's worth trying despite you being terrible at something. Today, I meditated for 4 minutes. It's a 30-minute meditation with Sam Harris. I don't see why I wouldn't share his name. And I was only able to stay there in state for 4.5 minutes. And the conclusion to that is, I have two options. Either smack myself in the head with a hammer, being like, you're so stupid, you're so dumb, you cannot do anything right, as I was stating, or be like, you know what, that's like 3 times as much as your first time when you were meditating, and you've actually, you're a bit better now, you're breathing more fully, it seems like you're less anxious, although recording this audio made me more anxious, because opening up is often quite anxiety giving. But I think trying to reframe this in those ways, it's incredibly useful and incredibly tough. No, not gonna lie. We've been told, and we're functioning in this way, especially, I know you are all very sick of the whole idea of type A personality, but if you are type A, like I am, then relaxing and quieting your mind is probably the hardest thing that you can do, and bashing yourself because you cannot finish a meditation, it's probably the natural thing that comes to you. So maybe, just maybe, see the failure as at least you're trying, at least there are some benefits. And obviously nobody can say what the actual effects of meditation are. There are studies on that, and it's not very conclusive what happens afterwards, after the meditation stops. But during the meditation, while you're in that state, there are improvements in different metrics that you need to be wary, like glucocorticoids and all of that craziness. And your body tends to be more still, which makes you, again, breathe in a much better way. And because there are so many meditations around the breathing techniques, while you're breathing, you're calming down. So all of those things are, I guess, good side effects. So is it worse not to do those 4 minutes, or to try and do it and fail miserably, but still realize that, hey, you know what, I can do another 4 minutes in 2 hours, and then another 4 minutes and another 4 minutes, and so on. And maybe if I meditate like 5 or 6 times per day for 4 minutes each time, well, it's 24 minutes if I do it 6 times, which is quite close to 30. I mean, nobody's gonna give me a medal for that, but obviously that's not something that I'm looking for. And to end this, again, I think it's very important not to get ourselves discouraged by things, and we tend to do that a lot, and that's what I wanted mainly to try to express, but also other things which I find incredibly helpful to speak about. If you're in an anxious and depressed state, first of all, don't eat sweets, don't drink coffee, don't drink anything that can put you in a even more agitated state. Anything with sugar, basically things that can be translated into glucose. So here comes any type of artificial sweeteners and fructose and high the corn syrup. I forgot the whole name of it. High fructose corn syrup, right? That as well. So don't go for things that are like that. One thing that I have found out, and I'm probably going to get some hate for it, I'm a huge fan of intermittent fasting because I hate cooking. So it's just easier for me to eat 2 or 3 meals all in a span of 6 to 8 hours. Well, it works, and it worked for my weight, but it also didn't help with the anxiety. My anxiety in the mornings when I'm not eating, goes through the roof. So eating a good full in fat breakfast, that's something that helps. You can try drinking green tea instead of coffee if you want something with a very tiny dose of caffeine. That's like 10 times as lower as coffee, I think. I know that black tea is 4 times less in caffeine than coffee is. And typically when I would be drinking coffee, I'd be drinking like 2 or 3 cups on a daily basis. So it's clearly much better if you're not doing that. Keeping yourself, and so that's probably the first thing. Don't eat stupid things, and also the second thing that's very close to that, when you're finding yourself in an anxiety-driven state, if you have the time, exercise for a bit, like 30 minutes of exercise. That could do wonders. I don't know what's happening there. Obviously, there are some hormones released while you're exercising, but I'm not sure if that's all there is, or it takes your mind a bit of things. I think the most important thing that you can do if you're in an anxiety crisis, and I have a bit more personal, let's say, experience with anxiety than with depression, so that's why I'm talking a bit more about it. But with anxiety, the best thing that you can do is to take your mind off that thing that causes anxiety. Like, I can put myself in a 2-hour frenzy of anxiously searching for things and looking for things and just pacing around the room like I'm doing right now because I'm recording this. But yes, it's very important to shift your attention. So here meditation can help and exercise can help. So those are, let's say, at steps 2 and 3. So try those things and don't bash yourself if you're not at some incredibly high level of anything. The fourth thing is very closely related, which is walking. I think walking for 1 hour each day really helps. Especially if you're working from home, you need that kind of separation. I've been trying to walk 30 minutes in the morning and 30 minutes in the afternoon, and I usually skip the 30-minute session in the morning, and that's not helpful. But walking in those key areas of day, I think that really helps. Another thing, alcohol, any type of addictions, that's not going to help you in the long run. That's a long discussion. This is already 17 minutes in, but it's a very long discussion, but none of the addictions will help, and especially the more benign addictions, because you will realize, for example, if you're addicted to something more dangerous, you will sort of realize that. But if you're addicted to social media or to porn or to video games or to something else or to eating, I don't know, those things are much tougher to figure out, right? So when you're feeling that discomfort in your body, in yourself, and you're trying to move your attention, going to a factor that causes addiction is not helping. Like, if you're anxious and you go play some video games, not necessarily the best thing that you can do. It's much better to become, let's say, addicted to working out or to, I don't know, maybe dancing or to doing something with your body rather than, because with video games, I think you're just pressing the issue a bit down the line, and that's coming from a person that used at some point in life to spend 12 hours playing video games just as an escape mechanism. And I still sometimes do it. Like, when I'm incredibly stressed, I just play some video games for like 1 hour, because who the hell would want to do all of those crazy things if everything turns to shit and you get no dopamine from that? And for me, I found it's quite easy to play a game that's not difficult, that's not hard, that won't make you stick to it. And this is going to sound silly, but if you really want to play a video game when you're anxious or depressed or whatever, play an easy game, which is a sports game. A sports game on an easy enough difficulty so that you can win. You get a fast win, you get a fast increase in dopamine. Not that easy so that you win 7-0 in a football game, but easy enough so that, for example, I love playing NHL when I'm stressed out. So I play one game, I'm winning like 5-3 or 4-2 or 4-3 or I don't know, something like that. And it makes me feel a bit better. It makes me feel like, you know what, I still got this. So now let's go crack that real life issue that I can truly handle. But I'm really mindful now to try and limit those anxiety-driven gaming sessions to at most 30 minutes. I wanted to say 15 minutes, but sometimes that's maybe just not enough, but 30 minutes. And also while at a standing desk. So I'm playing video games if I'm playing at a standing desk. I don't know why it took me so long to realize that if you really want to do that, it also helps a bit with I'm not sure what the real benefit of a standing desk is, but I think it helps a bit with moving your body. You will shift. After 10 minutes of playing something, you will find that your knees are starting to ache and your body aches and you are moving around, you change your position, and it's, I think, a bit better than just gaming from a gaming chair. But there's no science behind that, man. It's just me sharing Um, my thoughts on this with you. Another great thing that can be for you, be able to control the things that you're doing. Like if you're working in an environment where you are only taking directions from somebody, it's going to make you stressed out. If you rely on somebody else for any sort of stuff, that's going to make you stress out. It's better to be able to gain control on the day-to-day anxiety-driven things. That's where taking control works. Taking control doesn't work in major diseases or that type of areas where you receive a very negative kind of news. And that's an idea that's coming from Sapolsky. Basically, when something terrible happens, it's not helping to believe that you are in full control of your life, that you are the one that has caused that. That's probably the worst thing that you can do to yourself. And yeah, if you're like me, yes, you will definitely think that. You will definitely go in that area. So do as I say, basically, and don't look at what I do. An additional great thing that you can do is to start to search for purpose, for meaning, to do something that makes you feel like you're alive, to do something that makes you feel like you're important. That will somehow benefit not only yourself but others, which turns very nicely into the next one. Random acts of kindness to a person that you will probably never see again, and when nobody else sees you, that's probably going to be the most heartwarming thing ever. And I'm just thinking of things that have happened, and the level of people being incredibly grateful when you do something for them. It doesn't have to be much, it doesn't have to be a huge sum of money, but it just shows them that somebody somewhere thinks of them, and they react in ways in which you don't even know. Very rarely it has happened that someone reacted badly when trying to do something nice for them. So do an act of kindness, like maybe buy a coffee for some random dude, or maybe buy some hot lunch for a random homeless person, anything of that sort. I think that helps. And I think there are many other more things that I haven't covered here. It's great if you also feel like you're belonging. If you're in a group, an association, maybe a sports club, I think those places are really neat. And one of the best things that happened at uni that I wish would happen in a more, let's say, regular space, those societies that, for example, the basketball society, tennis society, the society of people who, I don't know, love chess or anything, any common hobby. It's great. And here's another point: it's great if you have a hobby, but trying to say that to a person who's anxious or who's depressed, it's not very helpful. It's tough to want to do those things that make you happy when you're in a terrible state. But again, you have to also discriminate a bit between anxiety and depression. Out of those two, depression is much more hurtful in terms of its actions. While you are anxious, you can probably do all the steps that I said to do a bit earlier, like move around, eat well, have friends, meet up, do some hobbies, some activities, and all of that I said, because I can remember. But in terms of depression, it's a bit more challenging. So here is the thought of try to do those things. Try to. So if you want to go out, if you want to go with friends, it's fine. Give yourself permission to go, let's say, to the subway station, and if you're feeling like, hey, you know what, I cannot do it, I really can. First of all, I would say, if you would want to try one more time, If not, then at least it's a small win. You don't realize it, but you at least got out of your house and you got to go to the subway. And people will understand. They will be slightly hurt in the very second when you cancel and be like, wow. But you can always say, hey, you know what, something's not alright with me and I need to take a rain check, and yeah, that's it. So nothing permanent. There is no permanent damage done then, and you will and maybe that's not the best example because you're doing this at the expense of other people, but the same thing might be with walking or with exercising. Like if you're doing it first 3, 4, 5 minutes, it's good enough, and then try to push for 2 extra minutes, then 2 more minutes, and so on and so forth, and then you will hit a good enough baseline that you can build upon. And obviously this as I stated in the beginning, there are 2 things that are of medical nature. So if there truly is a hormone imbalance, that's it's I mean, I don't know how to control that with all that extra things, like those psychological factors and physiological factors. I'm really not sure how to control those imbalances. I'm sure that somebody smarter than me can and can recommend different diets, different ways of living and whatnot. But that's a case in which you can try some other methods which somebody who's a specialist can tell you much better than I can myself. But this is a way of me trying to help, to sort of return the favor of being helped, and I hope things will get better for you.